Hey, welcome everybody to Pro Mindset Podcast. This is your host, Craig Domann. Today we have heavy metal on today. We've got Will Henshall, and Will is a interesting man. He's done a lot of different things. He's an author, an entrepreneur, an inventor, an artist. He's a leader of men, and he's a person that has a heart for finding out things below the surface, like why are people successful? Will, welcome to Pro Mindset today.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Absolutely. I've enjoyed your podcast, which is why we wanted to talk to you.
Absolutely. Share with our audience, give us like a kind of a sneak preview into where you've been, what's your story, and how did we get to 2025 today? What's been your journey to get to where you're at today?
Well, I'm in my 60s and I've had 7 completely separate careers.
7?
7. I've done 7 different things. Yeah. Some have been more successful than others, Greg. That's how it works. Right? But going back, I started off as a sound engineer. I've always been really interested in the art and science of audio, pro audio recording. I mean, we're talking on pro audio gear now. So, we are audio sound-based animals, we humans. I got really interested in that. And so my very first career in my early 20s was recording music, recording sound I'm British. I grew up in the UK. I moved to the USA in my early 20s. I've been here ever since. And so I was really interested. I worked for the BBC. I did sound engineering for, dialogue for things. And that then led me to an interest in, because I'm a musician. Second thing I did was I formed a band called Londonbeat in the late 80s. And we had 5 big hits in the early 90s, one of which was called I've Been Thinking About You, which is the best known song that we had in the band. I've been thinking about you. And I think it was the NFL Song of the Year as well in 1991. It got played the most. It was number 1 in every country in the world. In 1990 to 91. So that was the musician side, and I learned a lot about communication. We traveled, we were signed to a major label. I quit the band in 94. Being in a band is a little like being married. You kind of get to a point where you need to do something else. How many is that? 2. And then 3, I then got really interested in my dad and my brother and my family are inventors. They invent stuff. And I grew up with my dad constantly he'd be at a restaurant and he'd be picking up a salt shaker. He'd be like, this is badly designed. There's a better one. So this door handle, it's the wrong shape. And that was kind of in my brain. So in the mid 90s, digital audio was just starting. Prior to that, it was, reel to reels, big analog 2-inch tape machines. And so me and 3 other guys, I was the founder, started something called Rocket Network, which was a system that networked recording studios and video studios and raised a ton of money. Paul Allen got involved. A lot of other investors moved the office to San Francisco, which is what brought me to California. And then we sold the company to Avid. Avid make the leading professional video and audio editing equipment. So it's the underpinning of a system called Avid Cloud Collaboration. So that got me into the tech world. What did I do after that? I hope this isn't getting too boring for you, Craig. I ran a photography agency for a few years, learned the hard way about providing value and in a very competitive market here in Los Angeles. And then, what did I do next? And then I started something called Focus at Will. Focus at Will is a music streaming service that's still very much alive today. I'm still the CEO of it. And it's music for people who need help to focus and concentrate when they're working, especially if you've got ADHD. About 5%, 10% of the population have ADD, ADHD, same thing. And so I founded the company, discovered that different people respond differently to different types of music when you're putting music on in the background while you're trying to focus and concentrate. What about you? Do you ever listen to music when you're writing stuff?
I can go back to law school, and depending on what I was studying, right, and what kind of mood I was in dictated the type of music I needed.
There you go.
And so I was all over the board.
Yeah, exactly. We found that 1 person in 3 statistically doesn't like to listen to anything. They got to work in a quiet library. 1 person in 3, another person in 3. Yeah, it helps. They can be in a coffee shop. They need stuff happening to be able to focus. But 1 person in 3, it really helps. So I was focused at Will. And then that led me, I'm going to skip past a couple of things. Then that led me, I've been really interested in men's work. And so 15 years ago, I became a member of Metal. By the way, the website, if anybody's listening, is metal.men. We're a men's group. And we're a men's group because men are we're much more effective and we're much better in the world at large when we're in regular company of other accomplished, kind, up men from many different backgrounds. And so that's what I'm doing now. I'm the CEO and the co-owner of the Metal Men's Group.
Will, go through what the acronym METAL one more time.
Sure. Media, entertainment, technology, artists, and leadership. Ken Rakowski started this group as an in-person group in San Francisco. Met Ken in San Francisco, but he started it as an in-person group in 2001 in LA, just as a breakfast group on a Saturday morning. And then I was introduced to him and got invited to join in 2009. And the group is about members helping members. Usually in business, you've got a network of people you know. And usually what happens is, it's a transactional situation most of the time. I got a guy who can help you do a deal with. That's how a lot of transactions work. But we found actually it's a little different when you know many guys, as I said, who are accomplished and intelligent and kind-hearted, who you can ask for advice from without any kind of obligation or transaction. And so members helping members, it's a group of guys who we help each other, build our dreams. We help each other, solve our problems. So, and we've all got as you get into your phase, we've all got a very similar set of problems. If you think about it, I'll name a couple. What about this? Teenage kids, good Lord. And they can be problems for all kinds of reasons, from just being kind of unreasonable to like drug problems or, hanging out with the wrong crowd problems or being brought home by the police. Hang on, talking about that, my dog's just come in. Hang on a second. Come on, buddy, up you go. He has a bed here in my studio. Come on, bud. I'm just mentioning kids. Another problem that a lot of guys have is as you have a family and the kids take, your attention, and that's where all your efforts go. The kids have got soccer practice, da-da-da-da-da. And what happens is often your relationship with your wife it ends up on automatic, right? You've seen that many times. Problems with business, cash flow, the market's changed. You've got you got a product that people really like, but the market has changed. You were making saddles for horses and now no one buys horses. I don't know. So that's just a really good example of what the group does.
Okay. Let me dive in there for a second. Let's go deep on a couple things here. What do you see? This is pro mindset, and we talk about mindset a lot, but we talk about a lot of different things. What do you see in a man's mindset that allows him to adapt? Because really from decade to decade and from situation to situation, whether it's single, married, father with kids, things like that, adaptability is a very critical thing. And what do you see as like the secret sauce, so to speak, for men to be able to be adaptable? Because even in your marriage, before you get married, it's one relationship. After you get married, it's another relationship. After you have kids, it's a different one. After your kids get really busy, it's even a different one.
And then you're an empty nester, and now what?
Yeah, they move out of the house. It's a different one. So what is your perspective on adaptability?
This comes to the crux of why we were interested to talk to you. And that is, a couple of years ago, Ken Rakowski, who is the founder and the main host here at the Metal Group, we were talking and we said, what do the guys in this group have in common? What do successful guys have in common? And so we did a detailed survey, reach out, focus group. 450 of our guys responded to this. And we had many open-ended questions. And the open-ended questions were like, what do you attribute your success to? What matters to you? Tell us a couple of things about, and the wonderful thing about the AI analysis tech, Claude and ChatGPT and the things is you're able to now feed 450 25-page responses in and say, what do these guys have in common? And we found that there are 8 core principles, and I'll just go through them if you like, because I suspect that the folk listening to this and in your own career, Craig, with all of the artists and the athletes that you've met, I reckon quite a lot of these will be in common. So the first one was that we've all got curiosity. We're curious about everything, life, right? If you get on a plane and they say, put your phone or your laptop, whatever away, are you going to sit there or are you going to open up the flight magazine and you're just curious about, that's weird. I didn't know that apples are different. I don't know, I'm making it up. But, there's always something real interesting, or you'll spark up a conversation with the elderly lady sitting next to you and you just, So curiosity about everything is a core dimension and a core aspect of being successful. That links straight to creativity. We're creative. So you might find something out I'm curious about. I was on a flight magazine and I saw an article about apples and I didn't realize there's an apple and a pear, which are it's a hybrid. And I'm very interested in that. Would they grow in hydroponic? I'm kind of making this up, but kind of not. Could you grow them hydroponically in the desert with some now all of a sudden you're getting creative about the thing that you're curious about? What about yourself? Do you regard yourself as curious and creative?
I do, because I think anybody that's curious, I would even say this, anyone that's not curious cannot grow. So anybody that has a growth mindset, anybody that's like wanting to be the next version of them, you don't want to relive who they were, last week, last year, 10 years ago. You've got to be curious. It's a natural perspective. We have a new baby colt horse named Soul that's like 7-8 weeks old. Curious defines that little horse because everything's new.
Yeah.
And so I think what happens to a lot of people is when they get to a certain point in life, they stop becoming curious. They go on autopilot and they stop growing. And then from a creative standpoint, what I see that's synonymous with is, are you solution oriented? Are you a problem solver? Are you a dad that can lead your kids to a reasonable solution to their issue without ramming it down their throat?
Yeah.
Creative doesn't mean compliance. It means you have ideas and that you can potentially guide them to a place that's going to make their life better.
Yeah, absolutely. The next thing is resilience. We're all resilient. Get back on the horse. We wrote a book about this. It's called Masculine Intelligence. It's available on the Metal Men website. And we've got some pretty well-known guys in the metal group, in particular, Nolan Bushnell, who was the founder of Atari. And we asked him these questions, how is resilience? And he said, it's not get back on the horse. It's like he's on the horse and the horse is down and he's like kicking the horse and saying, come on, we're getting up. Let's go. Didn't even get off the horse, And so resilience it's two things. It's not giving up, but it's also knowing when to hold them, when to fold them, when to move on. Because a lot of entrepreneurial pursuits are experiments, right? Is this experiment going to work? Have I taken it far enough? Do you really think people are going to want to do this, buy this, right? So you got to know when to move on to the next thing. Next one is integrity. As you get on through life, you know that especially as a man, you get into your 40s, your word is your bond, even though you might not be aware of it. It really is. If you've got a business, you're delivering a service or a product, you're going to get a ton of people buying something from you once if you don't have integrity. What's your experience been with integrity in your world?
I would say I'll go back to resilience first. Resilience really is the ability to get back up when you've been treated unfairly, you've been rejected, you've been embarrassed. It's one of those things where when you didn't see it coming, can you respond in those moments? Because everybody has foreseeability. Everybody can see on the horizon so far. Some people can see around the corner more than others. Most people, young people can't see around the corner. They see what they see. Older people that have been around the block can actually see around the corner and they know what's probably going to happen, even though it's not foreseeable just yet. But it's can you bounce back? Can you get back up? I think any business person, you've got to have that because you're going to get knocked down a lot. Then integrity is, for me, it's who you are more than what you do. Because usually our actions are in alignment with who we are. Most of the time, our actions follow and are a direct correlation to who we are. So you got to be able to trust God. You got to be able to trust yourself. If you can't do those two things, no one's going to trust you. And so integrity, it is that old adage of, how do you do things when no one's watching?
Yep. My grandfather taught me he was a wood craftsman. He made astonishing furniture. And I remember helping him when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and he was finishing the bottom of a drawer, the outside bottom of a drawer that's under, and he was like making it perfect, just as beautiful as the rest of the outside of this chest of drawers. I just remember him saying he knows that it looks like this. No one else will see it. And he said, he talked about it very simply. He just said, you've just got to, exactly what you just said. You got to make sure that what are you doing when people aren't watching? How many people ever pulled the drawer out from one of his beautiful pieces and looked underneath it? I don't know. 2 in 100 years, maybe. I don't know. So yeah, that's a good one.
I think the other thing, if I can add one more thing about integrity, is that it's felt.
Right.
People feel your energy. They feel your integrity, or they don't. And sometimes when you meet people, you're like, in your mind, you're like, man, I got to make sure count all the pennies and count the money, count the whatever it is, because I don't know if I can trust this person yet. Of course, on the other side of the coin, there are people that when they walk in the room, you trust them. You feel their energy. And I really think it boils down to maybe this concept. If you trust yourself and if you've been a person of integrity, people will trust you before they even have a reason to. And if you haven't been trustworthy and you haven't been a person of integrity, people will also feel that energy and they won't trust you until you show them they should.
Yeah. I think that's particularly true dating. If as a younger man, you're taking your dating advice from sitcoms or what your buddies are saying, or worse than that, Pornhub, you don't understand how life actually works. And so to take any woman just even out on a date, she has to feel safe with you. That's the foundation. And what does that mean? It means you're going to keep your hands to yourself. It means you're going to be polite. You're going to listen to her, treat her as a human being, right? These are all lessons that certainly my generation, we did not learn out of the gate. And when I'm observing some of the younger generation, I think some of them are still needing to learn this,
I would say that you can carry that over into after you're married too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just before you get married. It's not just in the dating process. I think the longer you stay married, the more you realize integrity's number one.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel safe. They don't feel like you're being honest with them. You got nothing.
Yeah. The next thing for us is brotherhood. Now, I'm talking about this from a men's group perspective, but it is known and generally accepted that women form clubs, women form bonds, and you have the girls getting together. And it is very much a sort of an accepted thing that we kind of know, but guys don't generally do this. You can kind of, you got a frat group, or you've got, an ex-military vet group or whatever, but this is different. Brotherhood is having guys around you that you don't have direct financial or transactional relationships with, who can help you in life. And so we found that successful men have some close form of brotherhood. It may be 4 or 5 guys, or it may be 100 guys, or in my case, I've got about 150 men out of the metal group that I'm close to that we get together on a regular basis. Something else about brotherhood, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this, is when you've known someone a long time, you know whether they have integrity or not. And you know how resilient they are just because you watch them, right? And so old friends, you can't fool. You can't like bullshit, because you know why? I saw what happened when you got divorced. I know what happened when you went to some stripper event in Vegas. You may not say it, but you know it. And so having old friends and having brothers, guys that you've known for many years, is a really important thing.
I would say that brotherhood is only as good as the vulnerability of the men in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you belong to these groups and you don't share, and you don't hold space for other people to share, and you don't judge people, you don't shame them, you just seek to understand them and relate to them, then you've got brotherhood. But if you, if it's a condemnation group, like, oh my God, what are you doing? You're losing your mind. The group won't stay together. There has to be, I think probably one of the most valuable parts of being in the brotherhood is either going through the same thing with other guys at the same time, or helping guys go through something that you just been through. And in both cases, it's a benefit to both sides.
Yeah. We, in the group, we have, well, first of all, we have a golden rule. We don't talk politics, which is, given what's happening in the world these days, is an incredibly refreshing situation. It's not that we don't care about politics. We just know that we're an international group for starters. So we do talk geopolitics occasionally. Ken Rakowski talks about general positions and things, but we do not get into partisan matters at all. And that means you get to know the guys on a really close level without that getting involved. We have, the way that the group works is we have a flagship event, which is on Zoom on a Saturday morning, Pacific Coast time, West Coast time. And then we have about 35 other events during the week. And then we're a hybrid group. So twice a year, we all get together. So it's both of these things. And then regionally, we have an LA group. We get together on a monthly basis. Seattle, we've got a Seattle group get together on a monthly basis. Miami, Austin. One of the events, the regular sessions we have, is something that's unique to us, and it's called the Foundry. And the Foundry is a process of men's personal development work, and it's a confidential space, and it's something that we developed at Metal. We've been doing it for 9 years now, and it's where you can come and exactly what you just talked about, which is you vulnerably share. And if you've ever been around men's work, I've been in men's work in different circles for many years. You can be in a situation where you show up every week and the other guys in the group have got very significant things going on. Someone might have just lost a daughter in a car accident. Someone might be a veteran who gets PTSD because of he was a machine gunner in, these are very significant life situations. And if you go every week, what happens is all it is your wife's kind of mean to you a lot, or she just talks down to you, or you're just not happy at home, but it's not on the same league as some of the other guys. And so when you're sitting in men's work, when it comes to your turn to talk, you just feel like, yeah, well, I've had a tough week, my Well, what we discovered is, if you just keep doing that, you're just there on a weekly basis, listening to the other guys, and you never get a chance to talk yourself. So we figured out the Foundry, which is a way that every guy at the event gets a time to talk, and you get your full attention of the other men in the group in a confidential space. And quite often, just vocalizing something that you're not able to talk about anywhere else it's just liberating. You're not judged. Oh, in the Foundry also, unless you ask for advice, the guys will not lean in and give you advice. That's interesting. Exercising your listening muscle.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a big part of what we do.
I think brotherhood, God created us to relate and to have connection. And I think that a lot of guys go to work and they can't be themselves at work because they got to protect themselves. They come home and their kids don't want to know about work, so they don't process their work there. And they need other men to process both. Sometimes they're career situations, sometimes they're family situations. And so that's good.
Especially if you're in a position of leadership. For the guys, we're a leadership organization. So I would say most of the guys are either CEO leaders, team leaders. You're the guy that people look at and go, what do we want to do now, boss? Right. And when you're in that situation, there was a book called The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner back in the day. And I've always thought it's really the loneliness of the long distance CEO. Who do you talk to? Right. Because as a CEO, I've been the CEO 5 times, and you just always know things that out of context would wreck people's lives. Right. You just can't talk about it. So having a place to talk about. So the next one is this. It's financial literacy. So successful men all have got an element of financial literacy. It means you know how to make money, you know how to keep money, and you know how to grow money. Right? It doesn't mean you're a whiz at on the stock market, or you've got some kind of crypto genius. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the foundation, how money works. It's an exchange for goods or services. It's an energy, and just having a handle on how it works. And taxes are inevitable. Just saying, they'll get you in the end.
Can't hide from that.
Yeah. What did you find? We have one of the guys in Metal is a financial advisor for athletes after they've retired. And we've talked quite a bit about how important his role is in their lives, because The big money comes in. Big money comes in. They marry the wrong girl. Most of it goes out. And now you're broke, 36. What are you going to do? So
I think one of the biggest challenges for professional athletes while they're playing is maximizing their money, staying focused on the main thing. But no matter how hard that is, it's more difficult to make the transition to life after sport.
yeah.
And the reason why is because there are so many people that will help you while you're playing. And when you're done, so many people don't call you anymore. I mean, it gets very quiet after your career's over.
Yeah.
And the things that you need are not things you typically get paid for, whereas when you're in the league and you're hiring somebody to review a contract or negotiate a contract or invest your money, things like that, it all makes sense. And when you're done, you need people to help you with what's your purpose? What is your plan now? How are you going to make this transition?
I'll come back to the purpose word at the end of this little list, because you just put your finger on something that's foundational to being a successful man. Next thing is career development. Successful guys have all got some element of career development. What does that look like? It's having a coach. It's having a mentor. It's always reading. It's always learning. If you're a physician, there's new stuff happening all the time. And so physicians have a percentage of their time, 10, 15, 20% of their time, they're studying new things, new drugs, new ways of doing things. And so career development, always be learning. That's a critical thing. What about that in your own life? I heard you say that you trained as a lawyer. Is that right?
I did. I think one of the things that happens for some professions like lawyers and doctors, you got to get continuing education. There's no question about that. But I think a lot of people practice in a silo. They practice without a brotherhood until they run into a situation where like, oh gosh, I'm over my head. I need some assistance. I need some advice. But I think that today I have more coaching, more counsel than I ever have had. And I wish I would have been smart enough to do that when I was in my 20s and 30s.
Me and you both. I wish I'd got the metal men in my life when I was in my 30s. I wouldn't have married a couple of the women I married, for instance. One of them should have taken me aside on the day before the wedding and gone, hey, you sure about this? I would have been like, no. Oh, totally. That's coaching. The last thing, the eighth dimension, is work-life balance. So successful guys have figured out how to manage effectively over time work-life balance. So if you're an entrepreneur, there are times where you got to lean in. And there are times when you have to put in the 100-hour weeks. You have to do it. It's okay. But if you keep doing that, your efficiency, your life expectancy, your marriage, everything else in your life is going to really rapidly start decreasing much faster than you think. In months, you're going to be a shadow of your former self. So work-life balance it's a lot of things. It's about keeping healthy. It's about working out. It's about not obsessively working out, by the way. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about keeping fit, keeping well. We live in this time of, especially with the AI stuff going on, things are getting faster and faster. And at work, you got to stare at a screen and it just is getting more and more nuts. And there's more and more crazy news about you. And so it's like you've got one foot on a moving train going this way. And yet at the same exact time in your personal life, you've got to slow down. You've got to smell the roses. You've got to have dinner with the family, put the phones over there. You've got to go out for a walk. Your kid's only going to be 10 years old once. Get to a beach, get to the mountains, hang out with your kid. And he's like, I don't want to. It's like, just make him. He'll be fine. In fact, it's more importantly, he won't just be fine. It's critical that he gets to hang out with you. And, the sort of balance between everything at work getting faster and faster, and then everything at home needing to slow down. Go watch a concert. Leave your phones in the car. Once a week, my wife and I take her out on a date, and I lock the phones in the glove compartment in the car when we go in the restaurant. And initially, it was kind of awkward. Like, what do we do? What do we want to? And then we just we hang out. We talk. I remembered that she's funny and beautiful, and that's why I married her. She's a riot. So work-life balance.
So here's where my curiosity, creativity are working as you're speaking.
Oh, yeah.
What's number 9?
Okay. There is number 9. Purpose.
Purpose.
Men have to have purpose. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because your purpose can change as you live your life as a man. Your purpose is may well be to establish a career, to go to college, to prove yourself to your father, to find the right girl to marry. Your purpose is that you're seeking, you're trying to do things. And then your purpose may change. Your purpose may be, now you've got 3 wonderful kids. Your main purpose may be to bring them up right. Important, very important. And then ultimately, when you get into your 40s and 50s, I think it's fair to say that your purpose becomes much more personal. Your purpose becomes, this thing is important and it's the thing that drives me. And it's different for all of us, right? My own purpose, I have discovered over the years, is to communicate and to inspire people. And as a musician, I was communicating through music. And then in my high-tech business, which was to do with collaborating remotely with creating videos and music and audio, it was all about connecting and communicating with other artists to make something. And in Metal Men, I'm the co-host, I'm communicating. So what about you? What's your purpose, Craig, if you put your finger on it?
My primary purpose is it's where the intersection of opportunities, talents, and passions collide. And my passion has always been about helping people be better. I've always had a coach mindset of, pushing people beyond their limits, showing people that there's a way when they don't see the way, helping them see their value when they don't even see their own value. And then my talent has always been communication, being able to talk about the things that most guys can't talk about with people that they would never talk to them about. And then I think my gift is that I've had a platform for the last 3 decades where people gave me artificial respect. Being a sports attorney, they probably thought I was smarter than I am, that I was having more fun than I'm having, all those kind of things. And so it gave me a platform. I think everybody should be allowed to change their purpose. The more you're tapped into your purpose, the more you're living your purpose. I think that the more joy and harmony people have, the more fun people are around. It's more fun to be around them because they're happy, they're content because they're living their purpose. Is there a number 10?
No, purpose is the number 10.
Okay.
Here's something that happened. I'm just thinking about this. I was out with my wife and a few of her girlfriends, late 40s, early 50s. One of the women said she was fairly newly single. And she said she finds men that don't have purpose in the dating world are just dangerous and just not good to be around. And I was like, what do you mean? She said, I need a guy who knows his purpose, who's on track, who knows what he's doing, who, is not still trying to find out who he is and how life works. And that was a really interesting perspective from a woman's point of view, that she found men without purpose undateable.
I don't blame her. I think the reciprocal's true. I've been married, celebrated my 40th wedding anniversary here in the last month. And same girl,
well done.
40 years.
Well done. Yeah.
Okay.
Well done. Yeah.
Is that you need a woman on a mission. If she's on a mission, you can collaborate your missions and your purposes. But if they don't have a mission, I can remember going on a date in high school and I was starving and I asked this girl, I said, where do you want to go eat? And I don't know. You want to go here? I don't know. You want to go there? No, I don't know. We only had 6 restaurants in the whole town. So bottom line is we had to go to one of them. But it was a total turnoff for me because she couldn't make a decision about where to go grab some food. So I think I would rephrase your wife's girlfriend's comment and broaden it to, it's harder to have a relationship with a person that doesn't have a purpose, regardless of gender.
Yeah.
Okay. Which flows into my number 10 or my number 11. If I'm adding 2.
Yeah. I'd love to hear it.
Okay. So my adding 2, I'm looking through this: curious, creative, resilient, integrity, brotherhood, financial literacy, career development, work-life balance, purpose.
Yeah.
My next one is meaningful relationships. When it's all said and done, as we walk through life, we all yearn for and are fed by meaningful relationships. And at home, it's with your life partner. And with your family, it's the relationship that you develop with your kids. And your kids are going to change. They're going to push away at one point in time. But where is your relationship today? Is it getting better? Is it getting non-existent? For a lot of people, it's non-existent. For those people that it's meaningful, you're going to have a higher level of enjoyment in life. And I think even in business, having a meaningful relationship in metal, there's some people that are a part of it that don't have meaningful relationships.
That's right.
And they're not getting as much out of it as the men that
That's right.
have meaningful relationships.
Something you said earlier has stayed with me, and it is that as you go through life, you start getting a sense of how things work, how humans work. And so, I remember being a younger man, when I was out dating in my 20s. I was in a band, all right? So this is before I was in the band in Londonbeat. I just remember being in a bar and I'd be talking to a couple of girls and one of them took my eye and we got a good energy going on. And just before the bar closes, a guy in his 40s who's got presence and charisma and good looks walks straight up to her and says, "Hey, do you want to come for a drink somewhere?" And she's just gone. That kind of comes to mind, that it's just the experience of like knowing how things are working. Because this particular girl would have been I would have been a terrible boyfriend. I was way too young to be in this kind of situation. And so the older guy was just like, "Oh yeah, this guy's, I'm doing her a favor." And in metal, we have a group of guys who are over 70. It's the Elders Club. And if you're over 70 and you've been a metal man for a couple of years, you can pay whatever you want to keep your dues in the organization. And so we got these older guys. There's a guy called Prince Stash. He's 82. If you just look up therealprincestash.com, you will see who he is. He's a real prince, and he played guitar with the Beatles and the Stones, and he's friends with all kinds of people, and he's had the most insane life. And just getting to know him as a friend in his 80s, it's just been wise. One of my closest friends in metal is Ein. He's a physician. He still works. He invented the 3D microscope that's on the space station. He was, he's been a physician now for 68 years, I think he said.
Wow.
I know.
So here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Related to your membership in the Elders Club specifically. What's the common thread between all those guys that are still working, that are still they're still contributing to the world?
Yeah.
In their 80s.
I know.
What's the common thread?
Not retiring. I've been lucky. I've had a couple of exits where I could have retired. And the first time I lasted about 6 months and the second time I lasted 2 weeks. And so I'm never going to retire. I might slow down a bit when I'm in my 80s, like Dr. Robert Heller, who I've been talking about. I think he's down to working 2 days a week now, but he goes in and he sees patients, And so, the metal group is not a group. If you've moved to Florida and you want to play golf all day and hang out, this is not the group for you. These are guys that are active, they're engaged, fascinated in what's going on, and can bring a lifetime of experience and are kind and helpful. I think I said this before, but if only I'd had guys like this in my life when I was in my 20s and 30s, it would have been so useful. I would have done a few things differently, for sure.
What's the number one action or thought or change that you've made because of your association with metal, that if you were not a part of that organization may not be there today?
That's a really, really great question. Business-wise, directly due to being in the organization, when I joined in 2010, I just started a business and I was looking to raise some money, and I'd invented something and got a patent on it, which was to do with the way that audio is played back in books, like ebooks. And I discovered that after we did a big market research test on it, that no one liked it. So I'd got this product that I spent a lot of time and money and energy on, and virtually no one liked it. So I'd got this, what do I do, right? So Ken Rakowski, and through the other guys in metal, introduced me to Peter Diamandis, the author, the guy that wrote the Abundance book, who also is the co-founder with Ray Kurzweil of the Singularity University. Ken introduced me to them. I then went to the Singularity University and did an executive course there. And directly through that, I met a ton of investors, including Peter Diamandis and other execs from the organization, who ultimately I raised 1.4 million bucks and launched the business, which is now Focus at Will. So on a very tangible, practical business advice, I got some fantastic introductions and some great advice on how to launch that business. On a personal level, I'm never lonely, Greg. I've got really good men who care about me and who I care about. And you develop this kind of sixth sense empathy that if you're having a bad day, someone will call you. You got guy friends like that. They're just like, hey, Greg, what's going on? Just checking in. And you're like, okay, thank you.
I've got a handful.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody was interested in joining Metal, how do they do it? Where do they go? How much does it cost?
Metal.men is the website. There's a free guest pass. I would love to invite you, my brother, to come to an event every Saturday morning. It's a 2-hour event, 3 guest speakers. It's like TED level speakers for successful guys like you. 3-week kick the tires, nothing to lose. We have 2 levels of membership, gold and platinum. Gold is like, I want to say 120 a month or something like that. So even after the 3 weeks is up, the dues are 120 a month. You get a lot of access to a lot of interesting things. Ken Rakowski, who is the founder and the host, is a really brilliant man. And he's at the same level as classic talk show hosts like David Letterman and Jay Leno back in the day. He's younger than they are, of course, but he is the best interviewer that I've ever come across. And so he has a genius level of getting people to talk and feel comfortable. And he is a great community builder. Obviously, I'm here because of that. He also introduced me to my wife at a metal event. She was there with her friend, and we have a open to all events every so often. And then here's the real magic. And if you're around on a Saturday morning, late morning, wherever you're sitting physically to come to this, he has the ability to find where things are going to go. He was the first guy that talked to us about crypto in 2013. He said, there's this thing called Bitcoin. We're like, whatever, who cares? A couple of guys did figure out to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin in 2013, and we never see him anymore. Go figure.
On an island somewhere.
Yeah. He was the first guy that talked to us about how quantum computing is going to come along and change a lot of things. He talked to us. He was the first guy that said COVID-19. It wasn't even called that at the time. He said there's some kind of thing happening, and I think things are going to really change. He said this in November, December 2019 at a meeting. We're like, can you stop it? Anyway, March 2020. Yeah, everything changed. So having Ken on a weekly basis doing this show is just intriguing. You will keep up with all sorts of things that are happening. Yeah.
Okay. What's a question I didn't ask you today that you would like to answer?
AI. We've got a very strong contingent of AI experts in metal. These aren't guys who are recent AI converts who are now so-called experts. These are guys who've been doing it a long time. And this is my personal view. It's not a metal view or anybody else's view, but 2 things. First of all, the AI technology knows horizontally almost everything that is available to know about a subject. And the reason it is so amazing to us as humans is that we don't know all of the things that are right now interesting about this subject. But by definition, it's things that have happened in the past. It knows about things that are happening in the past, and it knows a little bit about things that are happening now, but mostly in the past. The human experience doesn't work like that. Great art, Picasso, Michelangelo, the Sistine Chapel, going back in the day, David Lynch, Paul McCartney. When these guys create art, they're looking into the top right-hand corner. I'm blessed. I'm an artist. I'm a songwriter myself. And the success comes from thinking about what's happening in future. The success comes from plugging into the zeitgeist of the human experience. And AI can't do that. There is already a renaissance of a sort of a counter renaissance to gen art of all kinds, which is more live bands, more live theater, more live comedy, more live performance, more live art, more getting together in person. And I think that what's going to happen is that there will be these kind of 2 parallel worlds where you've got AI, all ads are going to be AI driven. Of course they are. That's the stuff, things that you want to buy. It'll all be driven by highly targeted individual AI art and music and all kinds of things. But outside of that, I think that there's going to be this beautiful renaissance, and it's already starting. You can see it on TikTok, and you can see it on Instagram and the reels of people doing really great people things. We people love to see people. When I moved to California and moved to LA in the late 90s, someone got me courtside tickets to the Lakers, and I'd never sat that close to that kind of game. And the thing that staggered me that you don't really see on TV is the prowess and the ability of these athletes up close. I'd never seen it. And just to see that level of human competency and giftedness, I just walked out just going, wow, we humans can do that, right? It was really...
And the guys are a foot taller than we are.
So you're sitting there, you get sweat. The guy he's holding a ball like this, like I'm holding a tennis ball. I was just like, wow. And it's the same for us. Why do we like to go and see, Ed Sheeran? I don't know if you like his music or not, but he does 150,000 people on his own with an acoustic guitar, just looping stuff. He's just making it up as he's going along. Wow.
So authentic human experiences are what people are going to crave.
Yes.
Because everybody can be a lawyer now. Everybody can be an author. Mm-hmm. It's like anybody can build out a marketing plan using AI.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do now to kind of like, I really feel like when you use artificial intelligence and it's really a cheat code, and it's beautiful because you can save a lot of time. You don't feel grounded. When you do human, like life, just is called life, you feel grounded. People are going to yearn to feel grounded and do things, camping, whatever it might be, just to be in nature.
Go try horseback riding.
Yeah.
It's not even like a car that you turn on. No, it's different, Yeah.
I know that drill. Okay. So looking at time here, we're right in an hour. Will, you've already said it before, but I would like for you to kind of sum it up with, where can people find you? The name of your book again, metal.men, all that stuff.
Yeah. I'm Will at metal.men. That's the email address. I'd love to hear from anybody that's listening. And if you're a guy, and by the way, last time we looked, 20%, so 1 in 5 of our members gets recommended to us by their partner, by their wife or girlfriend, who heard about us from her girlfriend's boyfriend or husband. So a lot of. So if you're a woman listening to this today, and you think your guy could do well with meeting some other good men, send them along to metal.men. And that's the best way of reaching me. Our book, which is called Masculine Intelligence, which is right here, is only available on our website. It's part of our, when you sign up for as a guest, you get to see it. And there's a ton of, what I didn't say is there's a ton of celebrities in the group too. I mentioned Nolan Bushnell. We've got some other good guys in there who you'll be like, that guy's in here. Jim Quick, the memory expert. Yeah, other guys.
That is awesome. Will, thank you so much for being on Pro Mindset today. And I want to encourage everyone that's listening to go check out metal.men.
Yeah.
And see if it works for you.
Absolutely.
If you're looking for one of those 9 or 10 things, looks like you're going to find it there.
Yeah, that's right. I really appreciated the call, and we were really looking forward to talking to you, because the mindset is the thing that we all have in common, and the book is about that, as you could tell.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Will.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Hey, it's Craig Domann, the host of Pro Mindset Podcast. I want to thank you for listening or watching today's show. And you can catch us every week on the normal social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all the listening podcast platforms. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And more importantly, I hope you gained a pro mindset insight. Please be sure to rate and review Pro Mindset Podcast. And I look forward to catching up with you on our next show.